Welcome to Rich Conversations. I'm really energized to be here. We have Gigi Flores joining us from El Paso, Texas. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be on your show. I love it.
Now, I always love talking to Gigi. She's really insightful and perceptive and smart, and I love the aesthetic. She always has like a different aesthetic every time we record. Uh, but no, we love exploring art and writing and the mind. It's so it's so magical. It's so enchanting whenever we have you on. And the last time we discussed the movie, it was The Shining, right? Was it The Shining?
It was Taxi Driver, and then we moved on into The Shining very randomly. But yeah, it was film that we talked about.
Yeah. So today we're gonna do Donnie Darko, which
Yeah.
neither of us have seen before we
Mhm.
record this episode. Before we get into it though, how have you been over the last year or so?
I've been doing great. I finally graduated from the MFA that I was doing from the master's. So that was last year. So I received my master's, and I've been teaching English and composition at my local community college. So it's been a pretty fun experience, to be honest. And just like getting into the insight of what's going on with like students and how they perceive literature nowadays and film. It's very different though, but it's been cool. It's been cool. How you been?
I'm good. What's something that surprised you?
They don't watch as much TV or film as I would have expected. Like I
Okay.
talk sometimes when I'm teaching, I'm referencing like this films and stuff, and I'm like, have you guys seen it? No. What is that? I'm like, what do you mean? So yeah, they don't watch as much TV or film as we used to, probably.
So are they consuming media through like social media, like TikTok and things like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. So what comes up how does the discussion go when they say we haven't seen that or that they don't watch movies or TV shows as much? Like how do you
So
engage
ba
in conversation then?
Yeah, totally. So what I have to do is to give him kind of like a context of what the movie is
Okay.
about, kind of like a very quick synopsis, and explaining the theme that like if we're seeing something similar in class, like make that comparison and compare those themes that probably the movie talks about with the theme we're like discussing in class. And that's kind of like how I do it. But yeah, it is kind of hard, not gonna lie, because I like to use movies in my classes, in my classroom, you know? I feel like it's dynamic. I feel like it's a little bit different. I would say it is engaging, but
Yeah.
apparently it's not because they don't watch film anymore. So I don't know. It's been tough, but it's fun though.
Huh. What's been the highlight of teaching so far?
I would say getting to know students. So for example, right now I have two students who have disabilities, and they're honestly the spirit of the class.
Hmm.
They're hilarious. They're incredibly funny and incredibly outgoing. Um, that it is a joy to be around like the students, you know? Like they make the
Yeah.
classroom better in a way. I don't know. It's just they've been my highlight the entire semester, so I really appreciate um those kids. I do.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Um, well, why don't we get into Donnie Darko?
Sounds
Now,
good.
now we were thinking about a movie. I've really enjoyed the last few times we've done this. So I was thinking about some films to for us to kind of dissect, reflect on, engage with. And I typed in classic movies, and then there were some older ones, and I was just like, actually, within these like older movies, and I'm saying oldies as in like 60s, 70s, some like late 90s, early
Yeah.
2000s came up. So apparently
Yeah.
that's classic. But
Yeah.
there was I think I sent you, I'm looking at my notes somewhere, but it was like Kill Bill,
Yeah.
Eternal
Sunshine
Spotlight.
of the
Yeah.
spotless mind. Yeah.
Um, what other ones did I suggest?
You sent me a good like
They're good
I
It was
don't
a good
remember.
list.
Yeah, I don't remember if Casablanca was in it as well. That's also like a good one. But I
Oh yeah,
remember that as soon as I saw like Donnie Darko, I was like, we should go for this one. I was like, that's one.
yeah. You know what? I have it right here. Memento.
Okay, go. Oh yes, true.
Yeah. Okay. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Donnie
Yeah.
Darko, Kill Bill Volume One, and the Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah.
That was the list.
Now the list makes
And
sense.
without hesitation, Donnie Darko. So
Yeah.
that was good.
I always
So,
wanted to see it, but I never like I don't know, I never had the time or the purpose of like
yeah.
sitting down and watching. I was like, this is a good chance. So I was like, yeah, let's go for
I was actually shocked. I feel like I just
it.
assumed that you've watched like every movie.
No, not always.
I'm not someone who probably like your students. I don't sit down and watch a lot of TV shows and films, so it's good to have more purpose or reason. I did watch, I think one of the last films I watched in its entirety was the one Emma Stone was in, and it was
Or,
one of
uh,
the Oscar
but
nominated ones.
oh, Poor Things.
Yes, yes.
Did you
So
like
we're
it?
going over that. I did. I did.
Yeah.
It was good. It was creative. I think what
Mhm.
I'm looking for now, and this has always probably been available in film, is just like different stories. I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of times, especially today, or the movies that are shoved in front of my face with ads and everything, they're just all remakes and sequels and just
Yeah.
very predictable stories. And so
Hmm.
I'm looking for different kinds of stories, and that brings us to Donnie Darko. This was quite an interesting story, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was really cool to watch it. It wasn't, I don't know. Of course I had seen the trailer before, but I never really kind of like sat down or like even Googled the film at all.
Yeah.
So, um, I watched it yesterday, and as soon as I was there, I was like, "Damn! Like this is really good. Like this is really interesting. I really like the story. I liked it a lot."
Okay, so after you watched it, what was your impression, reaction?
Well, it's kind of weird. The film is weird, right? We
It's
have like
definitely
this
weird.
really, like we have this really awkward character who speaks to a bunny, six
Yeah.
feet tall bunny, right? Um, but what I really liked about the movie is the way in which they talk about like time traveling and all that stuff. I've
Mhm.
always been like incredibly like intrigued by that, and I've seen a few shows, kind of like I don't know if you've seen Dark on
I
Netflix.
haven't.
Well, that's a show that also deals kind of like with different timelines and the past, the future, the present, going back and forth, and how everything's connected. So movies
Okay.
that have like that kind of like storyline, I'm always very intrigued by them. And so having this film do that, it was like, oh my goodness, like yeah, it had me hooked.
I
I
didn't
thought it was
expect
weird,
it.
but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't expect the time traveling element. Yeah, it was woven in there. It was different. It was interesting. I was sort of, I'm still kind of confused. And I was really tempted to go on YouTube before this recording and just start going down a rabbit hole, no pun intended,
Yeah. No, yeah, totally.
a rabbit hole and just catch me up to speed of what things mean and what am I missing
Yeah.
here? Like I the whole
Everything. We're
ending just
missing
sort of like
everything.
flew
I
over my head.
know. I know, but I really like the ending. I feel like in the because that is the entire point of like if you think about like the movie, the entire point of the movie is coming to the ending and kind of like realize that he was that key element for all of the film not to happen at all.
So
No, or not really? Well,
for
that's
for
my
listeners
interpretation.
for listeners or viewers that are coming in, let me just summarize
Yeah,
based
that's a good
on
idea.
Google the show or the movie. Okay, during the presidential election of 1988, a teenager named Donnie Darko sleepwalks out of his house one night and sees a giant demonic-looking rabbit named Frank, who tells him the world will end in 28 days. When Donnie returns home, he finds a jet engine has crashed into his bedroom. Is Donnie living in a parallel universe? Is he suffering from a mental illness? Or will the world really end? And so, spoiler alert, what happens is at the end, the jet engine falls into the house in his bedroom and he dies. But by him dying, these other events that happen throughout the movie do not happen, which there are some unfortunate events. There are a few deaths or tragedies and all sorts of things. So basically, Gigi, none of that stuff happened then, right?
Yeah, basically. Kinda, yeah. Because I mean,
Okay.
we start at the beginning of the movie. We start with Donnie kind of like sleepwalking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's basically a time. It's basically it kind of like I don't know. The universe kind of like opened up like this space that created kind of like a parallel universe
Yeah.
that takes you down that road, and he had to, in a way, like close that gap, you know.
Okay.
And it's kind of weird because if you think about it, Frank, the rabbit, which we don't know who that person is at the beginning, but then by the end of the movie, we know the connection between Donnie and Frank. Um,
Do
it's
we?
like,
I
yeah,
don't. Can you tell me?
what do you mean? What do
I
you
don't.
mean?
Who? Wait, who was that?
Frank, like the rabbit. We don't know. You don't know who that is?
Well, no. I
Okay,
know the rabbit.
yeah.
I thought once he revealed himself, he became less creepy and
Oh
less
yeah,
kind of
totally.
fearful.
But you see how he has like he's okay. So which version of the film did you watch? Very important.
Theatrical cut.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so I watched that director's cut. So I think that one is a bit more explicit in
Okay.
what's going on in the film. So I watched that version, and basically at the end, we know that Frank it's Elizabeth's boyfriend. So the sister's boyfriend. And he's the one, Frank is the one who kind of like runs over Gretchen, right? And kills her.
Yeah.
So Donnie ends up like shooting him in the eye, right?
Oh, so he didn't when he shot him, it wasn't his eye, it was okay.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't he didn't kill him, but he shot him in the eye. Okay.
Well, I would assume that he did, right? But then in this parallel universe, I feel like the past is visiting the future. I don't know. It's really weird. It's a really weird film. Like if you think of like terms of like storytelling, nothing falls into place until the very end.
So
I
is
know it's real.
can that be an excuse to just not have any like nothing really matters throughout the movie until the end, and then you can kind of justify like if you wrote the
Yeah.
film,
Ugh, that's crazy.
you can have all these things happen and they don't have to really go in a certain direction, and then at the end it just explains stuff.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, there's a lot of movies that work that way. Interstellar by Nolan, by Christopher Nolan, is another film that deals with that kind of stuff, things weird, like weird things happen, and it's not until the end that the truth is revealed.
Okay.
Inception is another one of those, also
Okay.
Nolan. Um, but I feel like in this movie, kind of like what they're trying to say with Donnie Darko, it's kind of like it's questioning if we are like and I know that and I think I remember we had this conversation later if we are in control of our lives or it's like
Hmm.
already like predetermined. Because
Hmm.
in the film you see how there's like weird like thing coming out of people.
Yeah, I
Like I
didn't
don't know
think
what they
the
are.
that's like late 90s CGI stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Not
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Not
but that
yeah.
yeah, no. You go, you go, you go. You tell me, you tell me.
I mean, it's just like when I'm watching, I'm like, oh yeah, that's classic 1990s, early 2000s CGI with it's just not techni technically what it's at today, technology. That's all.
Oh no, yeah, totally. But also
That was
kind
my
of
only
like the
point.
meaning. Yeah, the meaning of it, it's kind of like that it shows Donnie how one person goes from one point to another and their actions are already kind of like predetermined by something, you know?
Mm.
So that is an interesting take, and that's what I really liked about the movie, that it questions that if that idea of if there is a God or something else controls what's going on in your life. You know, that really made me think a lot. So I was like questioning like the entire movie yesterday and today.
Yeah, they really explore that
Hmm.
with God or nothing, and
Yeah.
you don't see films really take those questions on at all ever.
No, not really. Not anymore, I would say. Probably back then, but not anymore. Yeah, it's
So do you
really sad.
think I noticed the executive producer was Drew Barrymore. Now, I guess I don't have as much context around the film, but I imagine I think it was a Sundance movie, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I think so.
Um, so I would imagine she got the okay, or she was at a point in her career where she could explore some stuff and put this together. Is the film more a reflection of the 90s and the time and these kind of ideas of we're talking about God and nothingness and predetermination, time travel, is that more of a product of the time, or is it the singular idea of the person in a way? The way like that movie, it doesn't seem like it would be created today. So I'm curious if it was a
Hmm.
product more of that era versus one's imagination.
That is a good question. Hmm. I don't know. You know, it's weird because I feel like from what I've seen with my students and kind of like how I grew up very close to the Catholic community.
Okay.
But now, like, I think that it's also it's probably a bit of both, I would say, you know, because I'm not as
Yeah.
religious as I used to anymore. So things shift, you know, and then you kind of like
Hmm.
have these films that question all these things. And I think it's something interesting to propose and at least to question once in your life if you'd like to.
Yeah.
um, but it might be a mix of both, you know? And yeah, probably Drew Barrymore was at a point in her career where she could explore like this kind of films that are kind of like weird and
Yeah.
it's like taking a risk. Because I feel like the script is risky. It is a risky and weird story
Yeah.
to tell. And not
Yeah.
everybody likes the film or not everybody would see through it, you know? So I think that is quite a risk to take, but I think it was a brilliant risk because the film has aged as one of like it's a cult classic. If you think about it, it is a
Yeah.
classic. You googled it, so and it came up like that. Um, but yeah, I think it might be a mix of both. You know, I think things shift over time, and these ideologies like are still like present. Probably they were back then for a lot of people. I was still a kid when the movie kind of like came out. But
Hmm.
it's right now when I'm an adult and I see it, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like you start questioning, you know, and you understand probably why they did that. So yeah.
Yeah, you sort of said like cult classic.
Hmm.
I really did feel like the story could be on its own the same way a lot of say like Taxi Driver and The Shining, like the story itself could hold up, whereas something that wouldn't be timeless would be very reliant on the time. So when you
Hmm.
would look back on it, it would seem very dated, and
Yeah.
the viewer wouldn't have a connection with the story because it's so far removed from the context that they're currently in,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, totally.
I felt like it did really hold up really well. It really kept me engaged.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Same thing. And again, since it was my first time like seeing the movie, and I really enjoyed also the pace of the film. You know, it kept like a good
Mm,
pace, like you said, it kept me hooked like throughout the entire film. Because the director's cut, it's a little bit over 2 hours. I think it's like a 2 hour and 5, 10 minutes.
okay.
Um, but yeah, but it was good. I really liked it. I really did.
Now, when you say pace, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, like it has like a good like timing, like things happen and evolve um in a good way in the film. It's not like everything's
Mm,
like too rushed or they're taking forever to explain something. So it's going it advances like at a properly pace. I don't know how to phrase it in another way. But yeah, they take their time to explain certain things and to propose certain things and ideas that at the end they lead you to kind of like this good like conclusion. And I was really satisfied with the film at the end. When I finished it, I was like very
yeah,
like I was like, yeah, like I will watch it again, you know.
that's what I thought too. I was very satisfied throughout the whole film.
Hmm.
I was very confused at the end, and I would need cliff notes or just I would need to do secondary research
Yeah.
to my mind just couldn't keep up with what was going on, I guess. And but I did really enjoy it. Something I was curious about, Drew Barrymore and
Hmm.
Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Hmm.
So I watched it, I separated it. I watched like 1 hour one day and then another hour or the rest of it the next day.
Oh
And
wow.
I feel like the second day Maggie Gyllenhaal came into the movie and I was just like, wait, was she in it before?
Yeah.
And then I was confused if she was the sister, but I thought Drew Barrymore was the sister of Donnie Darko.
Hmm.
Who
Who is who?
who is yeah, who is who? But then I was also thinking like Jake Gyllenhaal plays Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
So it'd be weird if like Maggie Gyllenhaal was a love interest or something.
No,
I
yeah, that'd
couldn't
be weird.
it was just moving a little too quick that way. I couldn't really piece it together. Could you help
Yeah.
me with that? Like what exactly the characters, how are they separated?
Yeah. So, okay, Maggie is actually Donnie's sister in the film and actually like in real life, right? Because they're actually like
Right.
siblings.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And Drew
Okay.
Barrymore is their English teacher.
Okay.
And she's also the one that kind of like starts um going also kind of like or not going into a rabbit hole because she's doing her own thing, but Donnie Darko is the one who starts seeing the um kind of like the relationship between the material she's teaching and all these questions kind of like spark in his
Mhm.
mind about like time traveling and the world coming to an end because of a film they're watching in class or a book that they're reading in class that it's about rabbits as well, which I think is
Yeah.
cute. Um, but yeah, so Maggie is actually like like her. I think if I'm not mistaken, the character is Elizabeth, and she's Donnie's sister, and Drew Barrymore is the teacher. Yeah.
So I feel like I was blurring their faces together during the film. At the first scene when they're at the kitchen,
Yeah.
is that Drew Barrymore or Maggie
No,
Gyllenhaal.
that's Maggie. Yeah.
Huh.
I could see probably because of the hair, because I feel like Maggie's a little bit of a redhead in the film. Not as like bright red hair as like Drew, but I would see why you would like shift the faces. Like I can see that.
Okay. It makes
And
sense
then
now that you're saying that Frank was the sister's
uh,
boyfriend,
yeah,
whereas Drew Barrymore's character was dating the kind of like science teacher or something. Okay.
exactly. And then Donnie was dating Gretchen.
Yes. The one with the bike, right?
Uh-huh, the girl
Yeah.
with the bike.
Was Frank in other scenes outside of the rabbit suit?
Just like one or two, I would say one or two scenes, and it's almost towards the end.
Okay.
It's the moment of the car accident where Gretchen dies.
Yeah.
And at least in the version that I saw, it was like it's I think moments before the engine crashes on Donnie's bedroom that there's kind of like this compilation of like brief moments with a lot of the characters, and Frank is in it. And he's drawing kind of like the rabbit mask. Yeah. It's
Yes.
weird, but that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't really see him outside of like the costume until the
Yeah.
movie theater, like that scene, and kind of like towards the end.
Okay.
Yeah, it is an interesting film. Like it's weird. Like I like movies like that. That made me kind of like think
I
everything and
know you do. That's
rethink
why I was like, oh, I know
symbolism.
she's right when it started, it like kind of started, then there's like all these questions about time
Yes.
travel. I was like, oh yeah, yeah, I get this. I get why Gigi is into this.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So that sorts that out.
Yeah.
I'm getting all my questions walked through here.
So what were your thoughts about the ending? I want to know.
Honestly, I didn't have any thoughts because I just was so confused. That's why I waited till right now to figure this out. Okay, something I'm still a little confused by. So, what's her name? Sparrow.
Yeah,
What's her
the
first
grandma
name?
grandma death. I don't remember her first. Esther Sparrow, something like that.
Yeah,
Was it Esther?
Agnes or Esther Sparrow.
Yeah, something.
So
Yeah,
she was
the crazy lady.
she's to the other characters, she called Grandma Death and she's appeared crazy, but she before in her life was a nun and then she wrote this book on time travel and then she became a recluse.
Yeah.
Um, so she was hit by a car and she died, right?
Was she? No.
That's what I'm curious about. So then how does she come into play other than she wrote this book they became interested in? Does she have any like does her presence have any movement to the plot or the story?
That is a good question. Uh, so no, the one who's hit by a car and dies is Gretchen, Donnie's girlfriend, the girl with the
Oh
bike.
yeah, yeah. But she was out there. Grandma Death was out there, right?
Yeah, she was out there. She was
Okay.
out there. Yeah. So
So what happens to her character? What happens there?
to the grandma death,
Yeah.
I think towards the end nothing happens to her. She gets
There's
away
no
with
like
like murder.
finality to her character, right?
No, not really. No, but we just
Okay.
know that she wrote this book on like time traveling, and it's the book that basically is helping Donnie understand his purpose in life,
Yeah.
which is towards the end kind of like sacrifice himself
Hmm.
for the good of the people he loves, basically. Because if you think about it, like towards the end, if he dies in the accident, like when the engine falls apart, um, nothing would have happened to Gretchen. The mom, because apparently, like in the film, when he starts like to see the future, I don't know, something like that. Once Gretchen's dead, the airplane that the mom and the sister are traveling in is the airplane that loses the engine.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Well, that's what I got from it. Because yeah, the airplane kind of like goes all crazy when they're in there. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
you can see kind of like falling the airplane falling apart.
Hmm.
And then if you think about it in the beginning of the movie, the little sister, when they're at the hotel room, she's like, and what happened to the rest of the airplane? Because it was just the engine. We didn't see the rest of the airplane, right? So it's kind of like, I feel like it's kind of like foreshadowing um the accident in a sense
Yeah.
that she's gonna be part of it. But I don't know how by Donnie just like staying there, nothing happens. So I think like it's a weird and strange way in which that gap into the future kind of like closes by him not going on a walk to meet
Yeah.
Frank at night. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I really like this movie.
What about the classmate with the earmuffs? What was her significance?
Hmm. What was her name again? I don't remember her name.
Mm, um, I don't know.
She was the one who always yelled like "Shut up," right?
I don't think she would always yell it. She was always just like, I thought she would
There.
have more significance for the amount of
Yeah.
time and like shots of her in the
I feel
story.
like in a way she saw Donnie for who he was, and she knew that he knew something that the rest of everybody, like the entire like people in the town, didn't. So I feel like she could really like see him, like who he was.
Okay.
Because also they pose this idea that I mean it's Donnie actually like there's like a living messiah or messenger, kind of like the book of the Grandma Death depicts, or is he actually like schizophrenic? You know?
Yeah.
But also, I don't know if you in the version in the theatrical version, they show this like one scene where the psychiatrist is like, you can stop taking your medications, they're just placebos.
Oh no.
No? So well yeah, he's so you see how they tried like this hypnosis therapy?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so there's another scene in the director's cut. I think you would like that one a little bit more because I think it goes more in depth. Um, so there's this one scene that they just finished kind of like having the hypnosis therapy, and she wakes him up. And then before he leaves, kind of like the room, the psychiatrist tells Donnie like, you can stop taking your medications, like it's just like placebos. And she goes
Okay.
on to like explain to him like, you're not an atheist, you're agnostic because you don't really believe in the God, but you don't deny the existence of a God or something beyond like the world, right? Um, so that to me poses this question of like, okay, so if he's not real, if the medication is really not medication, then he's probably like this, like he's the messenger, right? Like he has an important role or superpowers or something like that.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting. I thought that was cool that
That
they
would
had
have been
like that scene,
interesting
right?
if it was in the version I saw.
And I didn't ask you because I watched the film on Peacock. I don't know where you saw it.
I watched it on YouTube with ads.
Okay, I know. Yeah, because on Peacock you have to pay for. I know. I think it's for free. That one's for free. That one's for free on Peacock with the like just a subscription of like you signing up. You don't
Okay.
have to pay anything. Um, But yeah, I saw it on Peacock. I googled it and I was like, they have it on Peacock, so I am subscribed. So I watched it there, and it was a director's cut, so it's a little bit longer, and I think it has like commentary from the director. I just watched the film as I
Okay.
said. Yeah,
I can see
they
why that
explain a
discussion
few things.
wasn't in the theatrical version though.
Hmm.
The like specificity in regards to religion and beliefs and stuff, I could see
Hmm.
that getting cut. Um,
Yeah, totally.
Something I was shocked by. Seth Rogen was in the movie.
I know. Did
I
you
was
know
like,
that was his
what?
first film? That was his first film.
Was it really?
Yeah.
It was
He looks
weird
so
seeing him in that
different. I
role.
know. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's supposed to
When
be
I
like a bad guy and a
hmm
mean person.
Yeah, he always plays a good guy, the funny guy. Yeah, I liked
Yeah.
him in that kind of like role. I'm like, hey, Seth
Huh.
Rogen, you know what you're doing? Yeah, it was cool.
That was cool. A big thing for me was that class with the gym teacher when they were doing fear and love.
Yeah.
They were discussing fear and love because that's sort of how my mind operates. So I read this
Ooh,
book.
okay.
Um, this is Awareness by Anthony DeMello, and
Okay.
this is one of my like top 10 favorite books. And
Wow.
so
Okay.
it was written by a Indian Jesuit priest in 1992, and he kind of boils down life and like thoughts and actions as going into either fear or love, and this like
Interesting.
binary scale. And I was just like it blew my mind that that was in the movie,
Yeah.
but they kind of like poked fun at it more, and that there's all these
Yeah.
nuances to life and things like that. um but just the fact that it was in there, I was like, oh
Hmm.
wow, this like that scene right there confirmed that this was a film that was a little bit more risk taking, uh, daring in their ideas and their exploration of emotions and thoughts and dialogue. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, okay,
Yeah.
let's see this. But but yeah, that's what that scene reminded me of. What do you think about that? Fear and love.
Well, I thought that was interesting because I would agree a lot with what Donnie said in that scene, that there's a lot more to life than just like fear and love, because there's an entire full range of like human emotions uh that I don't fear that just lies underneath fear nor love. So I feel like there's an entire spectrum, and that's just like one part of it, but I feel like there's like an entire other part of it. So yeah, I feel like pretty like I really like the way of Donnie, or the way in which they portrayed Donnie's mind in a sense, because I was like, that is so interesting. Because yeah, I feel like sometimes we're taught that it's life goes like probably from here to here. And
Mhm.
since that's the way we grew up, we don't see beyond that. But then when somebody else comes in and tells you uh something differently, it's like, oh wow, like there's a lot more to it. So I really like that. I like, again,
Yeah.
I really like that they're proposing something different. That and probably at the time, when was the film released? Like 2001 or two, around that time.
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah. So I feel like it was like very an up and coming mentality, probably. I don't know. So yeah, it was cool. I liked it.
Yeah, I was disappointed that it was presented by the gym teacher because she's a very unlikable character.
Yes. I think that's the point. I think that's the
I
point of,
know,
of the
yeah.
entire like concept. Because we know Donnie is not gonna like that. So I think that was the entire point of it. And I think that it really works. It really works that they're proposing that idea of like life goes from here to here. And especially because if you think about the lady, she's um like very Christian lady, like God is everything and everything. And Donnie is entire opposite side of the spectrum, which is not even fear nor love. It's kind of like something else.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was cool. I like that scene. It's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have the Jim character who I'm looking at was Patrick Swayze.
Hmm.
I knew the face was familiar.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was Patrick Swayze though.
yeah. He's kind of like this
Huh.
like life coach or those like motivational speaker,
Yeah.
character. I really like that, and I really like how also it is like at the end of the film, kind of like towards the end, his true identity is revealed. Like he's not this like inspirational character that we were shown throughout the entire movie through the gym teacher. Like it's like something
Yeah.
completely different. So I really like that as well.
Okay, this is something I was confused by. So he gets busted for like a child pornography ring, right?
Yes.
But it's revealed, I didn't know the steps. Donnie goes to his house, lights it on fire, and then all of a sudden the next day he's in this Jim character is in cuffs and he's being arrested. How did it go from that to that? Like, how did they, where was the pornography ring part of it?
Okay, so I think that okay, so you see how when they're showing that the house is burning up, that one of the paintings, I think it's like a self-portrait of him
Hmm.
like in a painting, burns up
Hmm.
basically. So behind that painting, I think there was a door. And it's right there where he kind of like kept like his like treasures or prices and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I think that when the police went or the firefighters went into the house, they realized that.
Oh, okay.
And that's how he gets caught.
Because they did show that there was some type of meaning behind that painting and showing
Yeah.
it.
And it's also, if you think about it, it's kind of like unmasking this person who pretends to be like good and motivational, and
Yeah.
I'm here to help you to live your life in love and not fear,
Hmm.
going back to that idea of like the
Yeah.
gym class. And it's like he was the entire opposite. So I think that at the end, Donnie was right in the sense like life isn't measuring just like love and fear. Like there's a lot more that is going on, right? Um, so yeah, I mean he gets caught, and of course the gym teacher's like trying to um
Yeah.
prove everybody wrong, right? But how can you deny that? Like that's crazy.
Something I thought of throughout the film is uh, going back to our conversation earlier about context of eras and things like that.
Mhm.
If this was today, there'd be so many security cameras everywhere that everybody would know
That's true.
that Donnie Darko was doing all these
Yeah.
crimes.
Yes, of course. That's something that I also thought about or considered when I was watching the film. I was like, but how could it not? I mean, it was obvious, right? Because there's no like cameras and stuff. So I think if it was today, it would have to be even. They would have to be smarter in the way in which they present Donnie's actions, because I don't think it would be like as believable as it was back then. Because you didn't have as much security back then. Like even in houses, like the ring security cameras, they're like new like from a few years ago. So yeah, it would have been really different. I think I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, or with any like school, it was really I was just like, oh wow, the amount of effort they would have to put into an investigation
Yeah,
to figure something out. They had all the children write the
they made
sentence
me
on
do
the
it.
board to
Yeah.
see whose handwriting matched with it.
Yes.
I was like, wow, the
Yeah.
amount of effort and manual labor to go into
Yeah.
investigations.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally. And also because if you think about it, okay, so the movie was released in 2001, but the movie takes place in the 80s.
yes,
So I think that
it's a good
also
note.
like yeah, it's accurate to the time period in which the movie set.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah.
That's a great point to make as we're talking about the film. I thought
Yeah.
they really did a great job of it looked like and felt like the late 80s. Like the
Oh
way it
yeah,
was
totally.
shot, and you would have thought it was a movie that was made in the 80s with those cameras that we're familiar with, and like the quality of, it was really interesting. I thought they did a fantastic job with that.
Yeah, production was really good. Like even the settings, like the houses and the school, the uniforms, the clothing. I think it was pretty accurate to the time period they were setting in the film. So that was really
Mm.
good to see as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go through some notes here that I have.
Yeah, totally.
I
Totally.
wrote down, what quote, what did Grandma Death say to Donnie Darko? Do you know the specific line when she whispers something in his ear?
I honestly don't remember. I know that she whispered something. I don't know if it was something related to kind of like what he had to do, kind of like die or something like that. But I know that she whispers something in his ear, kind of like towards the end of the movie, right? Or was it in the
I thought it
middle?
was at the beginning. It was what I wrote down. I just couldn't make out what it said. Every
Yeah.
living creature is alone,
Oh,
or is
dies
it
alone.
okay? That's the other thing. Every living creature dies alone, or everything dies alone, something like that.
Yeah, it's every living creature dies alone.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that one. Yeah.
So then
And
when
if you
he's in those, yeah, go ahead.
and I was gonna tell you just like at the end he dies alone because he's alone in his room.
Okay. Okay. It's starting to come together now
See? See?
because he was pondering that in the therapy session, right?
Yeah.
About like loneliness, or
Hmm.
what did they talk about with loneliness? What was that about?
Well, he would say that he would sometimes like he knew that he wasn't alone, but he felt lonely most of the times. Because even if you think about the
Okay.
presence of Frank, like he wasn't alone, but he felt loneliness, right? And I think that it's not until that moment where he meets Gretchen and he falls in love with her that like he doesn't matter, like he doesn't care anymore if he has to die alone for her to be okay in the future.
Oh, that's a good observation.
Yeah, because also if you notice at the end, um, when they're kind of like taking out Donnie's body like in a bag because he's dead now. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know if you noticed that the mom and Gretchen kind of like wave at each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I feel like they wave in a way to each other, like if they knew each other but didn't. It's kind of like when you see somebody on the street and you're like, I feel like I've seen you before, but you don't know like where.
Oh, yeah.
It left me like with that kind of like feeling or sensation because they're
Hmm.
in a way we're connected by Danny, whether it was like in this present line or in the other
Yeah.
like line of the multiverse, if you want to see it that way.
And I thought they did a really great job of tying everything together and really like stamping out the kind of like finality of the plot
Hmm.
when Gretchen was asked if she knew him. And then she definitively says, no, no, I didn't know him. That right there was like, okay, now what just happened? Right?
Hmm. Exactly, exactly. So he pretty much like, if you think about it, Donnie kind of like sacrificed himself because of how much he probably like loved Gretchen or his family. Because he, even like before he goes back to bed, before the moment of the airplane, I think he kisses Elizabeth on the forehead, like on the head, and then he goes upstairs. Which
Okay.
is like kind of like an affectionate like way of like I don't know, like in a way saying goodbye. Especially if you think like throughout the course of the movie how the relationship between them kind of like played.
Hmm. I
That
thought,
wasn't my version of the film though.
okay, I don't necessarily recall, but it might have just been something I just didn't pick up.
Okay.
I thought Jake Gyllenhaal had a really great performance of convincing us of this character, that he was this
Yeah.
character. I was pretty impressed with that.
No, yeah, he's brilliant. He's brilliant. I feel like as an actor, he's one of my favorite actors. Like I've seen a few films from him, and every single time he delivers exactly like the way he should, honestly, like convincing you of the character 100%. I really love his character in this one.
It was especially interesting to me because last week I got back from Miami, and on the flight back, I had downloaded Roadhouse on
Oh my
Amazon
God.
Prime, and
I haven't seen it.
he's the Patrick Swayze character for Roadhouse,
Yeah.
and so he's a character in that film. And then to go back to 2001, and he plays this, uh, just this awkward character, and the juxtaposition, and then it made me think about like his growth as an actor, as a performer, and the art of expressing human emotions. I think what really stood out to me with his character of Donnie Darko was the way his body language was in his
Hmm.
like shoulders, like just
Yeah.
kind of slumped over. He continued it the entire film. Like
Hmm.
it was very consistent, and that really was notable to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he truly convinces you that he's like this weird like teenage boy. He does. Even in the way in which with Frank and when he's like having this hallucinations and everything,
Yeah.
like it's convincing, like you believe him that he has like that issue, that he has a problem or something. So yeah, I haven't seen Roadhouse. I want to see it. But I know that he's kind of like the main character now.
I do feel like Roadhouse is one of those movies I was talking about where it's just like a remake of whatever. I stopped
Hmm.
watching halfway through, so
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It
Well,
wasn't
yeah,
because
it
of
is.
his performance. It was more so the just the overall story.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, it is a remake if you think about it. It is a total remake, modern day. But yeah, like going back to Donnie, like I feel like he's always been a good actor. Um the first time that I saw him in a film was in October Sky.
Okay, I'm unfamiliar.
Yeah, so that's a movie about again like some kids in school where they kind of like want to go to NASA or um yeah, they deal with a lot of that stuff. It's really cool. It's a really nice movie. I don't remember what year was it like out, but it was a really nice movie. That was my first time like that I consciously like remember who he is as an actor or as a
Yeah.
person. And I really liked it, and I've seen a few of his films, and he's brilliant. I really like him a lot.
Yeah, I think overall the general public has a high consensus of him as an
Yeah,
actor and his
yeah,
abilities.
yeah.
Okay, question for you.
Okay, let me see.
Do you How much
Mhm.
stock do you put into, some would call it recognizing signs? They explored it a little bit in the film where they show um I can't remember a specific example where it's like a character sees something and then it
Mhm.
reminds them of something else over here that sort of gives them new direction or knowledge or intuition of what to do next. And like things
Mhm.
come up and everything seems to be interconnected in some way. And then the example I just thought of recently was how I mentioned Roadhouse. he plays
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze's character,
Yeah.
and Patrick Swayze was in this film that we had
Yeah.
just watched. And it's like, so that was like a deja vu kind of one of those moments for me right now of how, oh, I can see that. And then it like all comes together. How much stock do you put into that
Oh my gosh.
in life?
So that's crazy. So I recently bought this book. It's by I don't remember the name of the philosopher or psychologist that wrote it, but it's on synchronicity. Synchronicity, is that the name? Um, I don't have it right here, but the book really kind of like overall summary talks about how not everything is a coincidence and how everything's gonna like place on its time, like at a perfect timing. So I don't know, like I feel like again going back to that conversation that we had kind of like last year,
Mm-hmm.
um, I feel like we're not in control. It is something else, you know, and I think that whether it's a coincidence or not that he's playing that Jake Gyllenhaal is playing now this character that Patrick Swayze used to play,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like it's crazy. Like those are kind of like the little things that make you think like how, you know? And I don't know, I think that in life it's also I don't know, I feel like everything happens for a reason. Yeah. Or you
What's the
meet
name of the
certain people for
philosopher?
certain reasons. I
What
don't
was the book?
remember.
Synchronicity
Uh,
or
yeah, it's something like that. It's synchronicity. Like if you look it up, probably it's gonna come up. Let me see if I thought I had the book right here, but I don't think I do. I don't know where it is.
wait, is it Carl Jung?
Oh yeah, it's by Young. There you go.
Okay.
I bought the book,
Interesting.
and the reason why I bought the book is because my sister, I have two siblings, and one of them is really into like psychology and stuff like that. And she used to read Young a lot, so I remember I was walking out Barnes and Nobles and I was like thinking of her. And then I saw the book by Carl Jung and I was like, damn. And the book is called Synchronicity. So how like things, um, yeah, I know, wait, like happen for a reason, right? And so I bought the book because I was like, damn, like I was thinking of you. And then I came across this book. Yeah. I don't know. I'm a huge believer of those kind of like things, or at least I want to believe in that. I don't know.
I just bought it.
Oh, that's nice.
Amazon is so easy, so quick.
I know it's so convenient, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I think I have it somewhere in here. I haven't had time to read it, but I do want to read it now one of these days. But I don't know where it is. I know I
I
have it
think
here in my collection, but I don't know where it is at the moment.
I think that's a realm where I experience that feeling a lot. Like when I read, it's essentially a journey. I'm
Mm-hmm.
interested or curious about one thing. So I start reading one book and there's like a clue. Usually what happens, there's some type of I don't search for it, but something in the book then leads me to the next one and then the next one and
Mm-hmm.
the next one. So it's like this interconnected web
Universe.
journey universe of my pursuit of curiosity in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas that's how I read books.
Yeah.
It's
That's
not
cool.
I'm going to read the 10 classics and then go through them
Yeah.
one by one. It's it's very intuition based.
Yeah.
And that's why I have a lot of books. The book I read in Miami. So like when I buy books, it's because I'm
Alexander the
like
Great.
curious or there's a thread.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
bought this one. It's an Alexander the Great book. I bought it when I was in Brooklyn, September 2022. And I
Oh
bought
wow.
it without the intention of reading it right away, but just to
Okay.
have, because I know at some point
You're gonna go back to
I'll
it.
want to read this.
Yes,
And then
totally.
sure enough, like 2 weeks
It
ago,
happened.
I was like, this is the book I'm supposed to read right now. And then I
Yeah.
read it. And then it's led me to like now with the things I'm doing and my immediate writing,
Yeah.
it gives me exactly what I needed. It's like this interconnected loop. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? It's crazy because you would expect, well, probably, I don't know. That's how I feel sometimes. Like, am I in control of those decisions or is it like something else, right? That's pushing me that way or to buy certain things. And it's kind of like when they tell you like go with your instinct, right? Go with your gut. There's a
Yeah.
reason why we have that like sixth sense in a way.
Yeah.
Um and it is like a feeling of like, okay, I must like you, like I bought this book because it's not the book that I'm gonna read right now, but I know that eventually I'm gonna need it. And you did, you know?
Yeah.
How, how was that in you? How did you knew that, right? Like, there's no way for us to know certain things, but sometimes when they happen, it's like everything falls in place so effortlessly that it just makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
weird. It's weird. Life
I
is
wrote
weird, man. I
a
tell you.
story. I finished writing a story this morning, and I finished the last word of it was a word that kept showing up in that book.
Really?
So it's just like links back. It's like
Oh
really
my.
cool. It's to me that's what makes life fun and like that
Yeah.
having that sense of adventure. Um, Life is probably more enjoyable that way rather than I feel like the difference is being open versus closed.
Yeah.
There's more trust with living open,
Yeah.
and you don't have to have everything scripted out, but just be open and then the script fills itself. You don't have to worry
Yeah.
about it. You
Yeah.
just be present and act within this space or this scene.
Yes, totally. I love that you mentioned that because have you seen The Hunting of Hill House?
No,
No. Okay. Do you like horror movies or horror shows?
I'm open to it.
Okay, because that is a hunting show. It is incredible. So it is based off the novel by Shirley Jackson, The Hunting of Hill House. And there's
Okay.
actually a film, I think it's like a 2000 and something film with Catherine Zeta-Jones, that it's really close like to the book and to the original novel. The show that
So
I'm
is it
talking about right
a
now,
TV show?
yeah, so they made it into
Okay.
a Netflix series and it's like a 10 episode series. Like it's like 10 hours of your life that are going to be like really enjoyable and fun because
Yeah.
it's a really great storytelling. So Mike Flanagan pretty much adapted the novel into this like new entire version of like the story. And it's really good. And I love how at the end, so things happen. It's one of those films, sorry, shows that also deal with like time travel and things falling out of place, like in different order, but at the end it makes sense.
Okay.
So at the end of the show, one of the siblings says something about how we thought, how she thought life was kind of like a domino, that everything like fell
Okay.
one thing after the other. But instead, life it's kind of like when it rains, it's just like drops falling like at different speed and in different places. But at the end, everything makes sense and things align in a way in which you never thought they would. And I think and I remember that I'm just like paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact quote that she said that she used in the series, but it's something close to that. Um and within the context of the story, that like that phrase or that concept or idea makes sense. And that's kind of like also the way in which I see things. Like things happen in very strange ways in different ways, like in life, that we don't know why things happen that way, but I feel like at the end, if you put like everything together, it's kind of like, okay, that makes sense, you know? So that's kind of like one way in which I like to see life as well. That it's just kind of like life is a mystery. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Like literally, we don't know. We have a plan, we have a routine, but you never know what's gonna happen. That's the reality of it. And going back to Donnie Darko, I like that scene where he's talking to the science teacher and he's like, but what if you can actually like see your future, right? Or how can you like take part in it? Or and then the teacher's like, well, you would have a choice, right? Of or following that path or breaking that path, but you don't know at the end.
Hmm.
That's my way of seeing things. I don't know. Maybe too weird, I think, but
No, that's good. Yeah, we're coming up on time here. So why don't we
Mhm.
wrap up Donnie
Yeah,
Darko? That
totally.
was a great. I feel like this recent topic is intertwined and kind of
Yeah.
wrapping this up, but what are some of your final thoughts on Donnie Darko, the film?
It is okay, so yeah, and it is gonna be weird, but I think it's one of those films that you have to watch at least once. Whether you like it or not, I feel you're gonna take something away from it. It's a really interesting film to watch. Brilliant performances from everybody, honestly. Um, and I will be watching it again pretty soon, I think, because it left me thinking like a lot. So I want to see it again and watch the director's cut. I feel like that it's a little bit more self-explanatory than the theatrical cut.
I think that's a great way to summarize it. I don't think I need to talk more about it. You did a great job, Gigi.
Thank you.
And thanks
I
for
tried.
doing this with me. This is always enjoyable, and then it leads us into other great topics. Thank you.
I know, no, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me back. It's always a joy, honestly.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you again, Gigi.
No, thank you.